The planet Zithera Prime glowed under the light of three suns, its surface a swirl of green forests, blue oceans, and silver cities that sparkled like jewels. From orbit it looked peaceful, but the surface buzzed with activity. Alien spacecraft moved in perfect formation, their engines humming like giant bees. This was the home of the Kyler, a proud and powerful species known throughout the galaxy for their intelligence, strength, and discipline. At the center of it all was Queen Lysera, the ruler of Zithera, feared and respected for her unmatched skill in strategy and combat. She had built an empire from nothing and defended it against countless threats, but even she had not expected the human who would change everything. Ethan Cole stepped off the transport shuttle, his boots landing softly on the polished surface of the royal landing platform. He looked around calmly, taking in the towering palace, the patrols of alien guards, and the three suns hanging low in the sky. To most, he seemed ordinary, a human ambassador sent to negotiate trade agreements and diplomatic treaties. He wore a simple uniform, carried a small satchel, and smiled politely at everyone he passed. But there was something in the way he moved, the careful precision in his gestures, that suggested he was more than a simple diplomat. Queen Lysera descended the grand staircase, her long, flowing robes shimmering in the sunlight. Her eyes, sharp and calculating, rested on Ethan. He bowed respectfully, and she nodded. The court watched silently, aware that this meeting was important. For years, humans had been considered weak, fragile creatures. They lacked the physical strength and advanced technology of other civilizations. Yet there was something about this one human that made Lysera pause. "Welcome to Zithera Prime," Lysera said, her voice firm yet calm. "I hope your journey was peaceful." "The journey was smooth, and your planet is beautiful." His gaze swept across the landscape, respectful yet curious. Lysera tilted her head slightly. Humans often flattered, but Ethan's words felt sincere. He did not speak to impress her, and that alone made him stand out. "We are honored to host you," she replied. "I hope your stay will strengthen the bonds between our worlds." During a demonstration of the Kyler Defense Fleet, he leaned forward slightly when discussing tactics, nodding at points the commanders themselves had overlooked. During a meeting with alien ambassadors, he noticed hidden tensions and suggested solutions that diffused potential conflict. He did not shout or demand attention. His intelligence shone quietly, naturally. Lysera found herself intrigued. She had met humans before, but none had moved with such calm confidence. None had understood Kyler customs so quickly or noticed what others overlooked. He seemed ordinary, yes, but ordinary humans did not possess this level of insight. The turning point came unexpectedly. A minor sabotage attempt struck the palace. A small explosion shook the eastern wing, sending guards running and alerting the Queen's court. Lysera, trained to face threats, moved quickly, her staff glowing with energy as she prepared to defend herself. But before she could act, Ethan moved. His body was fluid, almost unnatural in its speed. He dashed forward, grabbing a falling Kyler officer and pulling them out of harm's way. He rolled, dodged falling debris, and even managed to intercept a rogue energy projectile, redirecting it harmlessly into a wall. Guards and courtiers stared, their mouths open in disbelief. Lysera herself froze for a moment, watching. Ethan straightened, brushing off dust from his uniform, and said quietly, "Are you all safe?" His calm, even tone contrasted sharply with the chaos around them. Lysera's heart raced, not with fear but with surprise. This human whom she had assumed fragile and ordinary had just acted with the reflexes and skill of a seasoned warrior, and yet he had not drawn attention to himself. He had simply done what needed to be done, silently and effectively. "Remarkable," she whispered almost to herself. Ethan bowed slightly, his eyes meeting hers. "I am only glad no one was hurt, Your Majesty." Some wondered if humans were stronger than they had believed, but none dared speak openly. Lysera, however, did not dismiss the event. She called Ethan to her private chambers the following evening. The room was vast, lit by soft, glowing panels that shifted in color with the three suns outside. She studied him carefully as he entered, noting how composed he remained. "You handled today's situation with precision," she said. "Few could have done what you did." "You are not like the humans I have known," she said bluntly. He smiled faintly. "Perhaps I am different, but I am still human." He spoke of humans as adaptable, curious, and capable of remarkable feats. Yet even in his stories, he never boasted or claimed superiority. Over the next few days, Lysera observed him more closely. He learned alien languages almost instantly, remembering words and phrases the court thought unteachable in such a short time. He practiced in the palace gym, matching Kyler warriors in sparring sessions with ease. He moved with grace and control, striking and dodging with perfect timing. The court could not ignore it. Lysera found herself conflicted. She had assumed humans were weak, fragile, and dependent on technology. Ethan challenged every one of those assumptions. She began to respect him, not just for his strength, but for his mind and judgment. He was calm under pressure, quick to assess risks, and intelligent enough to anticipate problems before they arose. Then came the first formal meeting with the Kyler Council. Ethan accompanied Lysera, sitting quietly as she spoke of trade agreements, security measures, and political alliances. When a dispute arose between two factions, he spoke up, suggesting a compromise that balanced both sides perfectly. The council members were stunned. Humans were supposed to be weak negotiators, yet here was one who understood alien politics better than many seasoned Kyler advisors. Lysera could not hide her admiration. During a private moment, she whispered to herself, "This human, he is extraordinary." The final event of the week was the ceremonial dinner, meant to honor the human ambassador and solidify diplomatic relations. The great hall was filled with alien nobles, their scales shimmering under the lights, their eyes sharp and curious. Ethan moved among them with grace, speaking politely, listening carefully, and even diffusing tense conversations with subtle humor. Lysera watched him carefully. He smiled, nodded, and answered questions, never once seeming out of place. The court whispered again, this time in awe. Who was this human who seemed ordinary yet acted with such control, skill, and intelligence? As the night ended, Lysera walked alongside Ethan in the palace gardens. The three suns hung low, casting golden light across the silver walkways. The air was cool, filled with the scent of alien flowers. She studied him carefully, noting how he walked, how he held himself, and how he looked at the world with clear, unafraid eyes. "You are not as ordinary as you appear," she said quietly. Ethan glanced at her, calm and steady. "I suppose that is true. But I am still human, Your Majesty." She had seen flashes of Ethan's true nature, glimpses of strength and intelligence that went beyond ordinary human capability. She did not yet know the full extent of his power, nor the secrets he carried with him. But one thing was certain. This human who had appeared ordinary was someone she could not ignore. And as the sun set over Zithera Prime, painting the sky with shades of gold and crimson, a quiet tension settled over the palace. The galaxy would soon see that humans were more than they appeared. The morning sun rose over Zithera Prime, painting the silver towers of the palace with a soft golden light. The air was filled with the quiet hum of alien vehicles, the chatter of palace staff, and the occasional call of exotic birds from the forests below. Queen Lysera stood on the balcony of her chambers, her long robes flowing in the breeze, her eyes fixed on the horizon. She was thinking of the human, Ethan Cole, and the strange, undeniable strength he had shown during the sabotage attempt. She could not understand how a creature so small, so seemingly ordinary, could move with such precision and courage. Ethan, meanwhile, was already walking through the palace corridors, carrying a small tablet with notes he had compiled about Zithera's political and military structure. He moved quietly but confidently, greeting guards and servants alike with calm courtesy. No one could guess the depth of his mind, the careful calculations he ran in every step he took. Humans had a way of observing that even the most advanced alien species often underestimated. Ethan watched, noted, and planned. His mind was like a web, connecting each piece of information to another, building a picture of the palace, the court, and the challenges ahead. The day's first meeting was with the Kyler Council, the ruling body that advised the Queen. The council members were all seasoned warriors, diplomats, and scientists. They had ruled the planet for centuries and were known for their pride and strict adherence to tradition. Many of them were still uneasy with Ethan's presence. To them, humans were weak, small, easily broken. Yet here was one human, moving calmly among them, observing, listening, and even correcting minor mistakes without appearing arrogant. Lysera entered the council hall, her presence commanding immediate attention. She motioned for Ethan to follow, and he did, walking with quiet confidence. The council's chatter hushed as the Queen spoke. "We have received reports of unrest near the northern colonies," Lysera began. "Several settlements have requested additional protection. The cause is unclear, but we cannot ignore these signs." He noticed subtle movements, a slight shift in posture when one counselor spoke, a hidden glance between two members, a tension in the air that others failed to acknowledge. Humans were observant in ways aliens often overlooked. He raised his hand gently. "Your Majesty," he said, "may I suggest a strategy to assess the threat before sending additional forces?" She had not expected him to speak first, not in a council of seasoned Kyler leaders. The council murmured, some showing annoyance, others curiosity. Ethan continued. "We could send a small reconnaissance fleet equipped with advanced sensors. Their mission would be to gather intelligence without alarming potential rebels. Once we have the full picture, we can decide how to respond effectively. Sending too many forces immediately may escalate the situation unnecessarily." "You may proceed," she said finally, surprising even the council members. "Prepare the fleet as the human suggests." Even the most skilled warriors found themselves struggling to keep pace with him. Yet he never pushed too hard, never sought to humiliate or dominate. He simply demonstrated skill, balance, and control. Lysera observed him from above, walking along the balcony. She realized something profound. Humans were not strong in the same way as the Kyler, but their strength lay in adaptability, intelligence, and resilience. Ethan embodied these qualities, and it was not arrogance, it was natural. Later, Ethan was called to the Royal Laboratories, where Kyler scientists were experimenting with energy weapons and defensive shields. He moved among the equipment with interest, asking questions, analyzing designs, and suggesting minor improvements. His observations were not random, they were logical, precise, and insightful. The lead scientist looked astonished. "You understand this faster than any of our apprentices," the scientist admitted. Ethan smiled lightly. "I have spent time studying similar concepts on Earth. The principles are universal, though the application may differ." Lysera watched him approach, noticing the way he carried himself, steady, unhurried, observant. "You continue to surprise me," she said. "Your actions today in the council, the training halls, and the laboratories, they are unlike anything I expected from a human. I wish only to serve wisely, to act where I can make a difference, and to learn where I must." That night the palace was quiet. Ethan sat by the large window in his quarters, looking out at the stars. He thought of Earth, of humans and their hidden potential, and of Zithra Prime. He understood the delicate balance of power here and the importance of earning trust, not through threats, but through competence and wisdom. A sudden alert interrupted his thoughts. The palace sensors had detected unusual energy readings near the northern colonies, the same ones the council had discussed. Ethan moved swiftly, gathering data and analyzing it. Within minutes, he identified a pattern. A small faction was attempting to disrupt communications and create fear among the settlers, but they were not yet a full-scale threat. He prepared a report for Lysera, outlining a precise response that would neutralize the problem without unnecessary conflict. When he presented it to her the next morning, she was impressed. "You understand the situation better than some of our most experienced commanders," she said. Ethan bowed slightly. "I only observe and analyze, Your Majesty." The truth is often hidden in small details that others overlook. He assisted with diplomatic meetings, offering subtle suggestions that prevented conflicts before they began. He trained with Kyler warriors, learning their techniques while simultaneously introducing new methods that improved their efficiency. He studied alien technology, discovering small enhancements that made it more effective. Everywhere he went, he quietly made a difference. The court began to take notice. Whispers spread. The human is extraordinary. Some were skeptical, believing it a trick or deception. Others were genuinely impressed, unsure how to reconcile their assumptions with reality. Lysera, however, no longer doubted. She had seen his courage, intelligence, and skill firsthand. She had also sensed something deeper, a strength that had yet to be fully revealed. One evening, after a long day of meetings and exercises, Lysera and Ethan walked together in the palace gardens. The suns were low, casting long shadows across the paths. Lysera spoke first. "You continue to act with such calm confidence," she said. "Even in dangerous situations, you seem unaffected. How do you do it?" "Perhaps humans are capable of more than they are often given credit for." As the night deepened, Ethan returned to his quarters, leaving Lysera to her thoughts. She looked out at the stars, reflecting on the past days. The sabotage, the council meetings, the training sessions, all of it painted a picture she could no longer ignore. Humans were not weak, and this human, Ethan Cole, was not ordinary. Somewhere in the quiet of the palace, Ethan prepared for what was to come. He knew the galaxy held dangers beyond anything Lysera had faced. But he also knew that humans, with their adaptability, intelligence, and courage, could rise to meet any challenge. Zithra Prime was only the beginning. And as the three suns set and the stars emerged, the palace seemed to hum with the quiet promise of change. A human was here, not as a visitor, not as a diplomat, but as a force that could alter the course of history. And Queen Lysera, for the first time in her life, realized that strength could come in forms she had never imagined. The morning skies over Zithara Prime were unusually tense. The three suns rose slowly, casting long shadows across the silver cities. The air was filled not only with the usual hum of alien craft, but also with a strange vibration that unsettled even the most disciplined Kyler soldiers. Reports had arrived overnight. A rogue fleet of alien warships was approaching the planet. Their intentions were unclear, but the speed of their advance and the secrecy of their movements suggested one thing: hostility. Queen Lysera stood on the balcony of her war council chamber, her long robes fluttering in the early breeze. She watched the horizon, her mind calculating possibilities, defenses, and outcomes. Even with her centuries of experience, she felt a rare twinge of uncertainty. The rogue fleet was larger than anything she had faced in recent memory, and their ships were armed with technology unfamiliar to Zitharan engineers. Ethan Cole stood beside her, calm and composed as always. His eyes scanned the approaching ships, noting their formation, speed, and potential weaknesses. Where others saw a threat, he saw patterns. Where the Kyler fleet feared chaos, he saw opportunity. "Your Majesty," Ethan said quietly, "they are skilled but predictable. Their formation has gaps. They expect us to react in the usual ways. If we change our tactics slightly, we can outmaneuver them." Yet there was a clarity in Ethan's words that demanded attention. She gestured toward the communications console. "Explain." "The element of surprise will be our greatest weapon." Preparations began immediately. Ethan moved among the fleet commanders, explaining adjustments, fine-tuning strategies, and predicting enemy maneuvers. His confidence was quiet yet firm. He did not shout orders. He offered guidance that drew on logic, observation, and instinct. Even the most experienced Kyler captains found themselves listening carefully, realizing that this human's suggestions were sound. Hours later, the rogue fleet emerged fully into Zitharan space. They were massive, sleek, and armed with advanced energy weapons. Their leader, a towering alien known as Korath, believed the humans to be weak. He had seen reports of Earth's limited technology and small forces, and assumed that any human involved in Zithara's affairs was nothing more than a symbolic figure. He was wrong. The battle began with a sudden strike against Zithara's outer defenses. Explosions rocked the orbiting platforms, sending debris spinning through space. Kyler's shields flared, absorbing the initial attack, but the rogue fleet pressed forward relentlessly. Lysera ordered her commanders to hold positions, yet Ethan noticed subtle flaws in their strategy. He moved quickly, coordinating small detachments, signaling maneuvers, and predicting enemy strikes. Then came the moment that shocked everyone. A rogue boarding vessel attempted to breach the capital station. Ethan acted instantly. With speed that seemed impossible for a human, he moved through the corridors, dodging energy blasts, pushing aside fallen debris, and using his surroundings to block the attackers. One of the Kyler guards hesitated, unsure how to follow his lead. Ethan grabbed the guard's arm, guiding him, and together they neutralized the boarding party with precision and minimal harm. Lysera watched from her command console, her heart racing, not from fear but from astonishment. She had trained for centuries, fought countless battles, yet she had never seen a human move with such fluid control, such timing, such calm under direct fire. The battle raged on. Ethan coordinated the smaller units, predicting enemy maneuvers before the rogue fleet itself seemed to recognize them. He suggested small, unexpected attacks that disrupted the enemy's formation, forcing them to react constantly. Zithara's forces, once on the defensive, began to gain the upper hand. On the battlefield, Ethan demonstrated more than strategy. He moved among the front lines, dodging plasma blasts, scaling the hulls of ships, and taking down enemy leaders with calculated strikes. His physical prowess astonished even the elite Kyler warriors. Some whispered that he was more than human, yet he never claimed anything extraordinary. He simply acted with calm precision, letting results speak for themselves. Lysera found herself beside him during one critical moment. A rogue warship had broken through the outer shield and was firing directly at the palace. She prepared to strike, but Ethan stopped her gently. "Not yet," he said. "We can redirect the blast. Follow my lead." Hours turned into a day, and the battle continued. The rogue fleet, frustrated by the unexpected tactics, tried to retreat and regroup. Ethan anticipated this move and positioned Zithra's forces to cut them off. One by one, the enemy ships were disabled or forced to surrender. By the end of the day, Zithra Prime had survived with minimal losses, and the rogue fleet had been decisively defeated. The victory was celebrated across the planet. Citizens cheered from the streets, alien nobles exchanged uneasy but respectful glances, and Lysera stood on her balcony once more, watching the survivors return to orbit. She felt a mix of pride, relief, and awe. Later, in the privacy of her chambers, she turned to Ethan. "You were extraordinary today," she said. "I have faced countless enemies, and yet, you surpassed everything I expected from a human." Humans had often been underestimated across the galaxy. Their technology might have seemed primitive, their bodies fragile, yet their potential for strategy, adaptability, and courage was immense. Ethan embodied all of it. The next day, Ethan was called to a debriefing with the Kyler Council. This time, their attitude had shifted. Where once they doubted, now they listened. Where once they sneered at humans, now they respected them. Ethan spoke calmly, outlining the rogue fleet's movements, analyzing mistakes, and recommending measures to prevent future attacks. His insights were precise, logical, and highly effective. Even the most skeptical council members had to admit his value. Lysera observed silently, feeling a quiet sense of satisfaction. She had thought herself the strongest, the most capable leader in the galaxy. But standing beside Ethan, seeing him act with intelligence, courage, and skill, she realized that strength was not measured by authority alone. True strength came from understanding, adaptability, and the courage to act when others hesitated. That evening, after the council had dispersed, Lysera invited Ethan to walk with her through the palace gardens. The twin moons were rising, casting a soft silver glow over the alien flora. The air smelled sweet and foreign, filled with the songs of nocturnal creatures. "You handled today as if you had been born here," Lysera said softly. "Your understanding of our people, our strategies, it is uncanny. Sometimes it only takes one person to change the course of events. Sometimes it is the quiet, unnoticed actions that matter most." Now she saw him as a force, intelligent, strong, and capable of far more than appearances suggested. As they walked, the palace lights reflected in the distant waters, and Lysera could not shake the thought that this human might be the key not only to her own safety, but to the future of Zithra Prime itself. She had married him expecting a companion, perhaps a minor advisor. Instead, she had found an ally, a strategist, and a protector unlike any she had imagined. The night ended quietly, but the sense of anticipation lingered. Ethan's abilities, revealed in the heat of battle, had changed the perception of humans forever. The Kyler, for the first time, had seen that they were not the only strong species in the galaxy. And Lysera, standing beside him, understood that the human she had thought ordinary was in fact extraordinary in every way that mattered. Above the palace, the stars shone bright, distant witnesses to a quiet truth. Humans were not weak. They were clever, resilient, adaptable, and when given the chance, capable of feats that could alter the fate of entire worlds. And on Zithra Prime, that truth had just been proven. The battle had ended, but the palace of Zithra Prime still buzzed with tension. Citizens cheered in the streets for the defenders, yet beneath the celebrations, whispers of uncertainty spread among the Kyler nobles. They had survived, but barely. The rogue fleet had been defeated not solely by Kyler's strength, but by the strategy, skill, and insight of a human, Ethan Cole. Queen Lysera moved through the palace corridors with a measured grace. She had spent decades commanding armies, negotiating treaties, and asserting her authority over her people. Yet in the aftermath of the battle, she felt a quiet shift within herself. Her perception of humans had changed, particularly the one beside her. Ethan had proven not only his intelligence and strength, but his ability to act decisively when the stakes were highest. Ethan, for his part, moved with calm precision. He was not used to being treated as a leader, yet here he was, quietly guiding strategy, advising commanders, and subtly influencing the future of an entire civilization. He studied reports, observed the city's rebuilding efforts, and spoke with Kyler officers. Everywhere he went, his presence carried assurance and clarity. The morning began with a council meeting. Lysera presided, her robes flowing as she took her seat at the head of the table. Ethan sat beside her, quiet but attentive. The council, still uneasy with the revelation of human capability, looked to Lysera for direction. She, in turn, looked at Ethan. "We survived the attack because of our people's courage and skill," she began. But it was the strategy employed by my human consort that ensured our victory. His observations and recommendations saved countless lives. From this day forward, humans will no longer be underestimated. Ethan spoke calmly. Your Majesty, Council members, the actions taken during the attack were possible because of preparation, observation, and adaptability. Every species has strengths. Recognizing and using them wisely is what ensures survival. Humans, she realized, wielded power in ways the Kyler had never learned, through patience, understanding, and careful application of knowledge rather than mere displays of force. The Council then turned to the question of rebuilding. Many northern colonies had been damaged during the rogue fleet's assault, and resources were stretched thin. Ethan suggested a methodical approach. First, stabilize critical infrastructure, then organize relief efforts, and finally, implement defense measures to prevent future attacks. He also recommended including humans in the planning process, arguing that their perspective could offer new solutions. Lysera nodded. We will follow this plan, she said. The citizens' safety is our highest priority. Buildings were repaired faster, supplies reached those in need promptly, and defenses were upgraded in a way that even veteran Kyler officers had not considered. As the days passed, Ethan continued to demonstrate his value beyond the battlefield. He visited schools, observing how young Kyler learned science, strategy, and history. He suggested ways to improve teaching methods, encouraging critical thinking and practical application. Teachers were skeptical at first, but they soon realized the results were undeniable. Students grasped concepts more quickly and developed creative solutions to problems. Lysera watched all this with growing admiration. She had always considered humans fragile, limited by their biology and technology. Yet Ethan's actions proved otherwise. Strength was not always measured by size or power. It could be found in intelligence, adaptability, and moral clarity. Humans had a way of seeing solutions where others saw only obstacles, of remaining calm when chaos threatened to overwhelm them. One evening, Lysera invited Ethan to walk with her in the palace gardens. The twin moons were rising, casting soft silver light over the alien flowers. The air was warm and fragrant, carrying a gentle breeze that rustled the leaves. You continue to impress me, she said softly. Your insights, your calm in the face of danger, it is unlike anything I have seen. I only do what is needed, Your Majesty. I act where I can help and I learn where I must. That is all any human can do. She realized she was beginning to see humans not as weak creatures, but as partners, capable of shaping events, guiding decisions, and influencing outcomes in ways even the most advanced alien species could not. The peace, however, was short-lived. Intelligence reports arrived that evening, showing that remnants of the rogue fleet had regrouped. They had not been destroyed completely and were planning a second, larger assault on Zithera Prime. This time they would strike not just at the colonies but at the heart of the planet itself, the capital, the palace, and the core of Kyler power. Lysera summoned the council and Ethan immediately. The room was tense. The leaders of Zithera understood the gravity of the threat. The rogue fleet's new formation was more cunning, their attacks more unpredictable, and their numbers greater. Yet Ethan's presence brought calm amidst the storm. This attack will test us, Ethan said, his voice steady. But it will also reveal the strength of our unity. The Kyler and humans together are stronger than either alone. We must act as one. We will follow your plan, Ethan, together. He also encouraged trust between Kyler officers and human observers, showing that collaboration could produce results neither species could achieve alone. The court, initially skeptical, began to see the wisdom in his guidance. Kyler commanders implemented his strategies, adjusting their formations and deployment patterns. Engineers built devices based on his suggestions to strengthen shields and enhance communication. Citizens and soldiers alike began to view humans in a new light, not as fragile creatures, but as allies capable of contributing to the survival and growth of Zithera Prime. Lysera felt a quiet pride. She had once assumed she was the strongest, the most capable leader in the galaxy. Yet now, standing beside Ethan, she understood that true strength came from collaboration, adaptability, and the courage to trust those who had previously been underestimated. Humans had shown that their power was subtle but profound. One evening, after long hours of planning, Ethan and Lysera stood together on the balcony overlooking the capital. The twin moons reflected in the waters below, painting the city in silver light. You have changed much here, Lysera said softly. not just in the council or the military, but in the hearts of our people. I see the same potential in your people. Together, we can protect this planet and ensure its future. He was a reminder that appearances could be deceiving, and that underestimated beings could accomplish extraordinary feats. The night ended quietly, but the tension of the approaching threat remained. Ethan's calm presence had prepared the city for what was coming, yet everyone knew the true test was still ahead. The rogue fleet was gathering strength, and their next strike would be unlike anything Zithra had faced. As the palace lights shimmered across the city, Lysera felt a mixture of anticipation and trust. She knew the coming battle would be dangerous, but with Ethan by her side, she felt confident that they could face it together. Humanity, once considered weak, had proven its strength in subtle and profound ways. And soon, the galaxy would see that humans were not just survivors. They were protectors, strategists, and allies whose potential could change the fate of worlds. The skies over Zithra Prime darkened as the rogue fleet returned. This time they came in full force, a massive armada stretching across the horizon. Their ships gleamed like black shards of metal, engines glowing with deadly energy. The Kyler citizens looked up in fear, remembering the devastation the last attack had nearly caused. But this time they were not alone. Queen Lysera stood at the command balcony, her robes billowing in the wind, her eyes sharp and determined. Beside her, Ethan Cole reviewed final data, his calm demeanor unwavering even as thousands of ships approached. He had spent the past days coordinating every defense, analyzing enemy patterns, and preparing strategies that combined Kyler might with human ingenuity. "Are we ready?" Lysera asked, her voice steady but filled with tension. Ethan nodded. "We are prepared, Your Majesty." "The fleet expects us to act predictably. We will act differently. Their assumptions will be their weakness." They were beginning to understand that humans, though smaller and physically weaker than the Kyler, possessed a kind of intelligence and adaptability that rivaled the best commanders of the galaxy. The battle began with a sudden strike from the rogue fleet. Plasma beams lanced through space, aiming at orbital defense platforms and supply stations. The shields flared, absorbing the initial blasts, but the enemy pressed forward with relentless precision. Ethan's voice cut through the comm channels, calm and commanding. "Divert half the defense units to the northern approach. Use the decoy drones to draw fire. The remaining units will flank their main vessels." Timing is critical. His mind worked like a precise machine, anticipating every move, calculating probabilities, and adjusting strategies in real time. He did not act recklessly, yet his presence on the front lines inspired the Kyler forces. Even the young pilots who had never seen battle before followed his guidance without hesitation. Then came a critical moment. A rogue warship, larger and faster than the others, broke through the shields and headed straight for the palace. Lysera prepared to unleash a full-strength energy blast, but Ethan stepped forward. "Not yet," he said calmly. "We can redirect it." Within moments, he navigated the enemy vessel with fluid precision, dodging laser fire, disabling weapon systems, and guiding the crew toward surrender. The ship was neutralized without catastrophic damage, a feat that amazed even the most experienced Kyler warriors. Lysera's respect for him deepened. She had thought humans were fragile, limited in their strength and abilities. Ethan had shown her otherwise, not through brute force alone, but through intelligence, courage, and flawless execution under pressure. The battle continued. Ethan's strategies turned what could have been a desperate fight into a controlled engagement. Rogue ships were outmaneuvered, their formations disrupted, and their leaders captured or forced to retreat. The combined force of human insight and Kyler strength proved unstoppable. During a brief lull, Lysera and Ethan stood together on the command balcony, watching the battlefield. "You have changed the outcome," Lysera said softly. "We could have lost everything, yet you led us to victory." It was the combination of skill, courage, and planning that ensured success. "Use the flanking units to target the shield generators," he instructed. "Once they are down, the main fleet can disable the flagship quickly. Timing and coordination are everything." The flagship's shields collapsed under the precise attacks, and within minutes it was disabled. The rogue fleet's leadership surrendered, their forces scattered, and the battle was over. Zithra Prime had survived. The citizens cheered in the streets, their voices rising in celebration. The palace glowed with the lights of victory, and the Kyler Council gathered to honor those who had defended the planet. Ethan, however, remained calm, his focus already shifting to the next steps. rebuilding, strengthening defenses, and ensuring that such an attack could never happen again. Lysera approached him, her expression a mix of relief and admiration. "You were extraordinary, Ethan. Not just in battle, but in guiding our people, in seeing solutions where others saw only danger." Ethan had not only defended Zithara Prime, but he had also changed her perception of what strength truly meant. Humans, small and underestimated, could shape the course of history. In the weeks that followed, the palace and the planet began to recover. Ethan worked alongside Lysera to rebuild infrastructure, improve defenses, and strengthen diplomatic ties. He introduced new strategies for training Kyler soldiers, combining human ingenuity with alien technology. Schools adopted teaching methods inspired by his insights, fostering critical thinking and adaptability in the next generation. The Kyler Council, once skeptical, had come to respect Ethan deeply. They recognized that humans, when given the opportunity, were capable of extraordinary achievements. His calm presence, clear thinking, and courage under pressure had earned their trust and admiration. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the palace gardens, Lysera and Ethan walked together, the city below glowing softly. "You have changed much here," Lysera said. "Not just the defenses, not just the council, but the hearts of our people." She realized that she had married not just a human, but a partner, a strategist, and a protector. Ethan's strength was not just physical. It was his mind, his courage, and his ability to inspire others. He had revealed the true potential of humanity, and in doing so had strengthened the entire civilization of Zithara Prime. The celebrations continued long into the night. Citizens rejoiced, soldiers shared stories of bravery, and the palace shimmered with lights of victory. Yet for Lysera and Ethan, the moment was quiet and reflective. They had faced a tremendous threat, overcome it together, and proven that strength was not always obvious, but could be found in courage, intelligence, and unity. As the three sons began their cycle anew, Lysera stood beside Ethan, looking out over her people. She had thought she married an ordinary human, but now she knew the truth. Humans were capable of greatness, of shaping events, and of standing as equals even to the most advanced civilizations. Ethan's calm eyes met hers, and in that moment she understood something profound. Strength was not measured by appearances, by size, or by technology alone. True strength was in the heart, the mind, and the courage to act when it mattered most. And on Zithara Prime, humanity had proven itself, not just as a survivor, but as a force capable of changing the fate of worlds. The rogue fleet had been defeated, the city had been saved, and the future looked brighter than ever. Lysera turned to Ethan, a smile in her eyes that carried admiration, respect, and a quiet wonder. "I thought I married an ordinary human," she said softly, "but you have shown me the truth. You are extraordinary. Sometimes it only takes the right moment to show it." And for Queen Lysera, standing beside Ethan, it was clear that the galaxy would never again underestimate humans. The story of that battle, that partnership, and that revelation would be remembered for generations. A human had changed the course of a civilization, and in doing so, had shown the galaxy the true strength of humanity.